Welcome to Draft Sickos on the No Ceilings NBA channel and podcast feed. This is the show where we discuss everybody from the biggest of names to the deepest of sleepers. I'm your host, Maxwell Baumbach, and I am joined by the real star of the show, Stephen Gillespie. Stephen, how are you doing tonight?
Maxwell, dude, I'm doing fantastic. I'm so glad to be here with you on a Sunday talking NBA draft, dude. How's everything on your end?
It's good. It's good. It was a pretty chill weekend. I had Shake Shack for the first time yesterday. That was good.
Oh, okay.
Big
yeah,
recommendation.
Okay.
I liked it. It was good.
Yeah, it's a fine experience, you know.
Yeah. So that was like the highlight of my weekend. I wish I could be like I
went to the
craziest party. No, it was good. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, wife was at a baby shower for one of like a bunch of our friends got like married to each other, which is great. Like it's always
That's
convenient
awesome.
when your friends are married to your spouse's friends. So like over the years, that's worked out pretty
Keep
well.
the circle small.
Yeah. So they were having a baby shower. So she was at that. It was just me and the kid. And our daughter said like the weirdest thing about like she's big into dress up, and then once she's in the dress up clothes, if you're like we have to go somewhere, it's like impossible to like get her to change back into real clothes.
Why would you ask her to? You just
exactly. But I knew if I was like, we're going to a restaurant that has cheese fries and milkshakes, she would be like, okay, I'll put real clothes on for that. So we did Shake Shack.
Can't get the princess clothes dirty. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, other than today was just like laid back. So yeah, how's everything good for you?
Dude, everything's great. I am just doing a lot of work behind the scenes for a big piece that I have. I guess we'll do housekeeping early.
Let's do it.
I'll be doing a piece on players that are testing the water. So players that are declared for the draft but maintaining college eligibility. There's only like 50 something of the names, so real piece cake, short little article. Yeah, I don't know why I volunteered myself to do something like that. I'm a glutton for punishment, but doing that,
that's like the story of our lives. It's being like, this would be a fun thing to look at like 64 guys that might like maybe 2 of them will be good rotation players at some point. Let's do that. Like I feel like that's our MO is signing up for those types of assignments. So,
and it's funny too because like the games are over. Like why are we working so hard? But because we love it and we're here to help everybody.
Yeah, I'll do my my housekeeping. I wrote about Will Riley this week.
Oh, dude,
that was the one where I went in and then came out and I was like, still don't really know what what I'm doing with this one.
Early second round for me. I know that's not a popular opinion.
That's about where I ended up with them.
Yeah,
it's a risk. It's a risk. I go into it in the article. I don't like being too negative relative to consensus, but there's a lot of questions there where I feel like he's best suited with a team that's going to be really patient, or if you're a team with multiple picks, I think that can work too. But yeah, let's get into today's topic. We are kind of hanging out at the top of the draft today, so a bit of a departure from our normal deep diving. Hey, have you heard of this guy at Northwestern State kind of discussion? But we're doing top 10 questions, as Stephen aptly named this episode. We're going to ask a question to our fellow host about each of the top 10 players on the last No Ceilings NBA Big Board. So that was the April board.
Yeah.
And I think we've got a new one coming out soon. So stay tuned for that.
I think if you're a fan of Wednesday is what the time tree has it listed as.
Great. So yeah, very, very soon. Yeah. If it's wrong, it's Stephen's fault. So we are going to start off with Cooper Flagg. So Cooper Flagg, and this is a great episode for if you're like just getting into the draft. Great timing. This is a great place to start. Cooper Flagg, 6'9", freshman out of Duke, one of the youngest players in that class. He is 18 and a half years old. At 6'9", dominated college basketball, AP Player of the Year, 19.2 points per game, 7.5 boards, 4.2 assists to 2.1 turnovers, almost 1.5 steals and 1.5 blocks per game. So was about as dominant as you can get, was efficient as well, 48.1% from the field, 38.5% from three, and 84% at the free throw line. I told you before the show, I've been doing kind of my calculator boy bag business, going into my percentile rankings for prospects. Cooper Flagg, relative to long-term NBA forwards in their pre-draft season, graded out in the 80th percentile or above in usage, BPM, OBPM, DBPM, assist rate, assist to turnover ratio, steal percentage, free throw percentage, points per 100 possessions, and dunks.
That's 10
So
things.
yeah, that's a lot. And like everything else for the most part was good. Like there was like 2 areas where he was below the 40th percentile, and that was it. So it is a pretty flawless pre-draft resume for Cooper Flagg, which is why I think this next question that I want to ask you is an interesting one.
Okay.
Let's say that Cooper Flagg, and let's avoid like physical catastrophe, I guess. So like avoid stuff like that. If like first percentile outcome is the worst and 100th is the best, if Cooper Flagg hits like a 10th percentile outcome, like if Cooper Flagg hits an outcome where it feels really disappointing, what does that look like and how would you value that? And like if you knew that was going to be the outcome, if God came down from the sky and said Cooper Flagg is only hitting his 10th percentile outcome, what do you think that would be and where would you rank him in this class?
10th percentile outcome. That's hard to even picture.
Yeah.
Because it's like if he's, let's just say top 50 player all time in NBA history, like in like normalcy or like his 100% outcome, like 10% of that is like just a role player, right? I mean, isn't his role player, is he Danny Green? Like, is he one of the best role players in the entire NBA? Is he someone that championship teams are still going to want? Because I mean, I was laughing about this earlier, Maxwell. We talk about him all the time, is that Cooper Flagg is more of a scorer than a shooter, but my man just scored over 38% on 7.2 attempts per 100 possessions. Right? So if the scoring is that good to make almost 39% on decent volume look bad,
like how bad can bad Cooper Flagg be?
Exactly. I think the handle is probably the thing that goes away if he's the only 10th percentile outcome and he's relying upon off-ball movement. He's relying upon, working within a system where screens are friendly. He sets screens, he rolls, he is just an interchangeable piece on every end of the floor. I think that because he can block shots as well, he's got great defensive timing and instincts. He can rotate, so he's going to be like one of these help side defender wings. I think somewhere between like a Danny Green, Robert Covington type player is where I would picture him, as if Cooper Flagg was only his 10th percentile outcome.
Yeah, my thing is like, I think it would require like zero handle development. And I think the handle is like already better.
For an 18-year-old in D1 basketball.
That's like the other thing is like anything that you think of where it could be negative, it's like you just come back to that caveat. It's hard to be like down on it. Would it be like more offensively tilted Herb Jones? You know what I mean? Like, would it be Covington? I feel like is a good one. I feel like somewhere between like Covington and Herb Jones, because I don't think he's ever going to be like the on-ball guy that Herb is defensively. But offensively, I feel like it scales into an offensive role so much better. Because like even coming into the league, like the Herb passing stuff was more like him as a creator than like as a connector, and he scaled that down really well.
James Posey somewhere in that
neighborhood. Yeah. Or is he like a bigger Derik White almost? Like that's kind of like a weird, weird one.
Guard route. Okay.
Well, not even like guard, but just like more off ball offensively.
Okay.
Yeah. So like if we know that we're getting like Herb Jones, Robert Covington, that vicinity. So Dirty Dancer in the chat is saying that we're being too optimistic. He's like, maybe Marvin Bagley, where the defense doesn't translate for some reason. Marvin Bagley,
Dirty Dancer is like
defensively in college, like
throwing out center comps like Marvin Bagley and Emeka Okafor.
Come on, Dirty Dancer, I love you, Dirty Dancer. I love you, but this is
you are one of the best people in every basketball chat ever.
I agree. So for me, it probably requires the shooting to be like quite a bit worse. But even then, it's like he has so much more in the way of like ball skills than Matisse Thybulle ever did. Like Matisse Thybulle could never even dribble. Aaron Gordon's a good one, but Aaron Gordon's also like still really awesome.
That might be like 50,
I feel like that's kind of
60,
close.
70. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 10th percentile outcome means it's terrible, not becoming among the best role players. I think that's my point more so is that, like, I think the 10th percentile for Cooper Flagg, if it does not involve catastrophic injury, is this.
Yeah. Not like 10th percentile relative
like
to every
general.
NBA player. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm saying, like,
relative
of
to how he
spectrum
projects.
available to Cooper Flagg. Yeah.
I mean, maybe it is lower. Dirty Dancer might have a point. Like,
because I think it is. I think floors generally are lower than we make them out to be.
Yeah, like what let's say terrible Cooper Flagg look like? Let's scale it down to like what we would call like his 3rd to 5th percentile outcome. What does that look like? Is it Evan Turner?
I was gonna say, that's like where my head was going. Was more like the Markelle Fultz. Like, what if he really just like ends up not being able to shoot at all?
Yeah.
Like, but even
then, Rondé Hollis Jefferson.
Yeah, but even then, it's like he just like has more of a handle in like passing game than these guys.
Yeah.
So like, I still think it's useful. Is it because like I don't know, like would he be like Tari Eason but less defensive juice?
I don't even know what that looks like.
It's like a weird thing to yeah.
Yeah. Like
I mean more Eason, like Tari on offense, where it's like, sometimes the shots go in, it like the decision making and like handle stuff gets a little erratic.
I think we just created
the world.
I think we created a segment called like this is very much like Draft Stoner conversation.
Yeah, it's very, very all over the place. But yeah,
what if he was like Tari Eason, but not Tari Eason?
Yeah, well, and like we got AA here who's saying like Dylan Harper's floor is much scarier, might make people angry. That I agree on. Like I think there are like Dylan Harper disaster outcomes, or if you were asking about Dylan Harper, it's like I can 100% see how the Dylan Harper thing gets super, super ugly. If like the
like Hood Schifino.
Yeah, sure, exactly. Yeah. Like something along those lines, where it's like if the on-ball stuff does not materialize and there just is not a complementary skill set present, like, and those don't develop, then it gets really uncomfortable really fast. Like with Flagg, I feel like he is so good at that stuff that I still think like it's really good. And I'm still willing to take like 18-year-old who looks like Herb Jones #1 in this class. Like, I don't know. But yeah, so I guess where would you take 10th percentile Cooper Flagg based on what we're talking about?
Ooh.
I mean, you got to take him like top 6 at worst.
I don't know. Like if I'm saying that I know that he is only 10th percentile outcome, I'm not assuming that everybody else is also going to be in their 10th percentile outcome.
Yeah, we're just operating in a normal world. Like you don't know anything about anybody else. You just know that Cooper Flagg is only going to hit the 10th percentile of what he could do.
I think if I know that I'm getting like a really good role player, I think in probably like 10 to 15 range, like in all honesty, like maybe 8 to 15. If I know for certain that the high-end outcome is those guys, I'm probably going to roll the dice on a Dylan Harper's potential, a Kon Knueppel's potential, a Khaman Maluach's
swing
potential.
On VJ or Ace. Yeah, I think probably 7 is as low as I would go. I like for me, it's like I still like 7, Dylan, 8. VJ, Ace, Kon, CMB, and then it becomes like is that version of Cooper Flagg like still markedly better than Carter Bryant? Or
maybe
like, you know what I mean? Because like if we're saying that the handle is going to be an issue and like Carter Bryant's thing is the handle, it's like, well, maybe he develops that if this version of Cooper Flagg doesn't.
Well, where do you have Neat Clifford on your board? Because I think that
11?
kind of 11. So
yeah.
So is that also kind of like how you're projecting Neat Clifford to be?
Yeah, I think with Neek, but I
have Neek 8.
Yeah, Coop's bigger, so I think I'd kind of default him just based on age and size.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was a long conversation, mostly trying to pin down what exactly the question even was.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Dylan Harper.
Bottom line, I think that you and I both think that
he's still going to be really good. Is basically what
he's going to be very, very special. All right, so let's move on to question number 2 from me, which AA so graciously teed up in the chat when he said that Dylan Harper's floor is much scarier. So Dylan Harper, the kind of combo guard, lead guard from Rutgers, 6'6", 215, 19 years old, 19 points per game, almost 5 boards, 4 assists, half a block, almost 1.5 steals, 48% from the floor, 33% from deep, 75% from the free throw line, less than 2.5 turnovers per game, and under 2 fouls per game. My question, Maxwell, to you, Dylan Harper largely being like the consensus number 2 prospect in this class, are we sure he's good enough to be a number 1 guy for an NBA team?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I really wish I was. If he was, I would feel a lot more confident about putting him there. So here's what I'll give Dylan Harper and why I think that upside does exist. For a freshman, he carried a massive usage rate, had a really high assist rate, and even like his like turnover rate was like low, especially relative to the amount of usage that he carried. Like, and this is a guy who was getting swarmed. A lot of the times I always preach this.
And he was injured.
We need to be, and he was injured. I think we need to always be careful about like making excuses for a player versus like contextualizing them. Like we talked about Jalen Hood-Schifino earlier. That was the guy I missed on. And I feel like so much of it was me making excuses for him. Like, oh, guys like weren't ready for his passes a lot of the time. That's why the turnovers happened. And like, oh, he was injured. And like, once he gets his athleticism back, it's going to be fine. Like the defense is going to be better. Like all this stuff, like,
don't worry, guys.
I blew it. Like it was just straight up like any excuse I could find, I made it for him. And I didn't give that same benefit of the doubt to other players in that class. And it led to me being wrong. Even with all of that being said, like Rucker a while back sent a shot chart to the group chat and he was like, who do you think this is? And the numbers were terrible. It was like horrible percentages for rim, horrible percentage from 3. And we're trying to figure out which prospect it was. And we're like, maybe it's like one of the like guys that can't shoot that's getting overhyped. And then he was like, no, that's Rutgers without Dylan and Ace on the floor. Like this is a team where really outside of those two, there was very poor finishing. They didn't have a lob target. They didn't have reliable shooting. Like it was really bad. So I think even with that, the fact that he was still a fantastic rim pressure player and a fantastic rim finisher with kind of a cramped court, not reliable teammates, having to self-initiate a lot. I think that's all really exciting. I also came away thinking like the defense was fine. Like it's conservative, but it's not bad. Like he sort of knows where to be, he knows what to do. Do I wish there was a little more pep in his step? Absolutely, but I'm sort of okay with it. I think the concern is just the shot. Like he wasn't a great free throw shooter. The volume was low. He wasn't great off the catch. He didn't take a lot relative to the position that he's going to play in the NBA, and his percentage wasn't that good. So Harper shot 33.3% from 3 and 75% at the line. He took about 9 threes per 100 possessions, which is good in the context of like a bigger player. But if you're projecting him to be a guard, you generally want to see a little bit higher volume shooting from a backcourt player. I ultimately think the rim pressure is what's going to win for him. Like, I think just the ability to put that amount of pressure on the rim at his size, with his level of like sneaky shiftiness, the counter game that he has, the power that he plays with, like, I think that in and of itself is going to give him a real level of value, even if it does not click at that main level and he ends up having to be a second side guy. I think the disaster outcome is like, what if he gets to the NBA? The low release becomes even more of a problem on his jump shot. It's too easy to contest him. And then, like RJ Barrett from AA, like where he's RJ Barrett, it's like, it would look like that. I think he's a much savvier downhill player than RJ was at a similar point, like age-wise. But like, I've always thrown out, like, I think he could always just be AJ Mitchell. It's like the name I always kind of go back to. Like, I think that's kind of what it looks like. But am I sold that he's like this on-ball guy? I don't think so, because like in the modern NBA, unless you're Shea, you've really got to be able to shoot. And I don't think he's Shea. And if he was Shea, he would, maybe I'd have him number 1. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with it. How do you feel about Dylan? Are you sold on him being that on-ball guy? I think, and my thing is too, like, I always talk about like avoiding loser mentality if you're picking at the top. Like if my team sucks, I better be rolling the dice on that and not settling for a good role player. And I know some people disagree with that from a philosophy standpoint, but that's kind of my take on it.
I think the draft cycle for evaluators requires a lot of like mental toughness, because I think it's just natural human instinct to pay attention to the players that are noisiest the latest in a draft cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a while, brother, since we heard any noise from Dylan Harper. And I think that's where we can kind of fall out of love with prospects sometimes, because Rutgers obviously like didn't make a tournament run. Even during the regular season, they were wishy-washy. Dylan did miss some time with an injury. We know how to contextualize what we saw from that team this season. Even still, like, if this is what bad looks like from him, it gives me some optimism for what good looks like, though. And I'm kind of falling into the trap that you were talking about earlier about making excuses and stuff, because, I mean, he does have a decent free throw rate. He got to the line a ton. The assist to turnover ratio isn't what you want to see, but from what we saw on that shot chart, contextualizing again, like, he could only give the ball to people, you know, he can't make them make it. He did show the ability to get to the lane a lot, which I think rim pressure for that size and his position that he's projected to be is very important. We saw that he was active away from the ball, 86th percentile in spot ups, 91st percentile in cuts. Even funnily enough, was in the 100th percentile on putbacks, according to Synergy. So, and when he was open, Maxwell, he was 50% on his open threes, which ranked in the 93rd percentile on open jumpers. So even if he isn't a dominant on-ball guy, which he has a projection to be, what do you think the low end, like, what do you think? Do you think he's Malcolm Brogdon potentially? Like another big body, another big body guard who you trust, who can start, who can hit threes, who can make the right play. Not uber athletic, but athletic enough to use his body to shield the defender away. And like, one rookie of the year, you know, like I think that's not a bad way to go, but that's also not like the most ringing endorsement you give a player who a lot of people, Maxwell, said that in a lot of other years he goes number one. Like, that has been the point of conversation a lot in a lot of you know, draft spaces.
Yeah. I think that's all really fair, and I think that's kind of spot on. I think it's kind of a good place to wrap it up too. Is like, I think there is like those Brogdon outcomes, and the fact that like the low release does inhibit him on the ball a lot. The fact that, like you mentioned, he was so good on those unguarded shots. It's like, well, if we can just knock those down, like, he can't get totally ignored, and then that opens up something, if nothing else. Especially because he can drive with power. So even if guys are closing out short on him, he can still, you know, beat his way through them at times too. So yeah, I think that's a good place to end him. Let's do Ace Bailey up next, his teammate at Rutgers. Ace is a very polarizing prospect, 6'10", 18-year-old, scored 17.6 points per game, 7.2 rebounds, 1.3 assists to 2 turnovers, 1.3 assists per game, 1.3 blocks per game, a steal per game. He was 46% from the field, 34.6% from three, 69.2% from the free throw line. One of those guys who's really polarizing because the highs look really high. When he's bought in defensively, he can fly over the place. He can make plays at the rim. He can dart passing lanes. He can get low in his stance and stay in front of people. He competes really hard, has this unbelievable mid-range shot-making bag. He can really hit tough shots from three. But when it's bad, it's like, hey, why are you settling for all those tough shots from two and from three? And why aren't you getting to the rim more? Those are kind of the real flaws with Ace. The question I want to ask with Ace is, because I feel like so much of the conversation around Ace is, well, if it all comes together, he can look like this. And then the opposite side of the conversation is, well, if, you know, this goes wrong and this goes wrong, or he doesn't end up in the right system, he's going to stink and he's going to be bad. What do you think is like a normal outcome for Ace Bailey? I know I'm focusing a lot on like high end, low end, median today.
Yeah, no, this is good.
But I feel like so much of the Ace talk is like, he could be so good. Oh, he could be so bad. Like, what do you think it looks like for Ace Bailey if he's like decent?
If Ace Bailey is decent,
or if he just hits like a middle outcome, because I feel like with Ace, so much of the conversation is just around the extremes. And I feel like generally the truth is in the middle.
DeAndre Hunter, maybe for Cleveland.
DeAndre Hunter is an interesting one. Okay. Dirty Dancing brings up Cam Reddish. That's another interesting one where it's like the guy who came in highly touted. I think like different types of athletic concerns, where with Cam, it was more like speed, first step, bounce, where with Ace, it's more like lack of physicality, shot diet, would rather pull up.
Yeah, I think somewhere between like a DeAndre Hunter, maybe Aaron Wiggins, maybe
interesting. That's an interesting one.
Type guy. I don't, and I'm listing guys that are smaller, and the reason why I'm doing that is like I'm very well aware that Ace Bailey is listed at 6'10", but he does shoot over people, but he doesn't play big all the time, and that's kind of like an annoyance on my end. I think that, you know, I texted you this earlier. I was preparing for the show and I was looking at Jabari Smith Jr.'s year at Auburn because a lot of people are comparing him to like Jabari Smith Jr. and Michael Porter Jr., which Michael Porter Jr., don't even waste your time looking up his college year. You know, it's non-existent, right? I think that Jabari's 1 year at Auburn gets underrated a lot. Like my man shot over 41% from deep on what was it, like 10 to 12?
A lot of volume.
Like attempts per 100. Now where Ace Bailey kind of has him beat, and this is really it, is that he's more efficient inside the 3-point line.
Which was a huge red flag for Jabari at the time. Was like he's this really bad finisher for a guy who's going to go super high.
Correct. Now, Ace isn't a great finisher, but what he's better at and why the field goal percentage is better is because, like you spoke earlier, Maxwell, was the mid-range game. Like that's where a lot of his boost comes from, which I think Jabari is an apt like comparison. I generally do. I just think that we overrated him a lot coming out of Auburn.
Yeah, the star stuff was overstated. Now it's guilty of that personally.
Yeah, and I was too. So that the handle, Dirty Dancer mentioned it in there. So I saw someone, it was a Power Stone in the chat, mentioned Rudy Gay. I wish that Ace could handle the ball and cut to like and make those moves to the rim consistently, like what we saw Rudy Gay do his entire NBA career. I just think that. And the other thing, too, is like Jabari also played on a bad team. It may not be like historically bad as this Rutgers team was in supporting cast, but Auburn was not like the best place in the world for him to
were really mad at the guards all year.
Yes.
That year. People did not like those guards.
I'm people.
Yep.
I'm people. I did not like those guards. But back to your question, I think Ace, he's got the potential to be there, but for him to get to Jabari comp, he's under 35% on lower volume and was worse from the free throw line. So like his touch indicators are I would say like significantly worse than what we saw from Jabari. So if we're comping him to Jabari, what does a step down from Jabari Smith Jr. look like? Because that's what I think the median outcome is, Maxwell. It's whatever a step below Jabari Smith Jr., who is what, like the 8th, 9th man on a very good Houston Rockets team right now.
Yeah.
Is it Larry Nance Jr. somewhere in that neighborhood?
It could be. It could look something like that.
Yeah.
Could he be like a more could you pare it down to where he does like the stuff Nasir Little does well while being a better shooter? Because like he plays really hard. So could you talk him into like hustle, scrappy defense and then make that work? Because like otherwise we start to get into like, I don't want to get to like Jake Layman territory. You know what I mean? Where it's like tall guy, theoretical shooter, not a great decision maker. Like I don't want to get there. But I do think he could also like, I don't know, like
I see a lot of Gigi Jackson in the chat.
Gigi's a good one.
Gigi is a really, really good one. Good job in the chat.
Yeah.
I like that one.
With Gigi, I just don't like to use Gigi as an example because it's like you're still like barely seeing Gigi play.
That's
like all things considered. What about like Yuta Watanabe? Like, is he just like a guy that's like around and maybe pare it down? But I think this is like where I'm optimistic because I think you could also sell me on like, could he be a like skinny Corey Kispert type? Could he be Daniel House? Like, could he be one of these guys where it's like, that's a guy that you do not mind having on your team as like a 7th or 8th man that can just come in, play hard, knock down some shots. And Daniel House is like one of those guys who's like sneaky, not quite as good of a shooter as you'd think he'd be, if I'm not mistaken. But like Daniel House, I think is another guy I thought about with him.
Yeah. But where do you have him on your board right now?
4, could see him going as low as 6.
I have him 5, and I know that that's not going to be popular. Like, I saw someone in the chat earlier mention Derik Queen, my guy. The next guy we're going to be talking about, I have ranked above him as well, which I like the top 5 in this class. I actually like my top 10 a lot. I think this class has some really good depth, but Dirty Dancer pointed out in the chat earlier, if you're looking for like a lead handle creator guy,
not a great year. Yeah. Not
a great year.
If you're the number 1 pick, it's a great year. But other than that,
it's fantastic.
Not so much. Yeah. Let's do a break. We're going to come back and get to guys 4 through 6. Stick with us. All right, Stephen, it is your turn to ask a question. What do we got?
All right. So next player on our No Ceilings big board that we had prior to the Wednesday update that will be coming out, VJ Edgecombe, the guard from Baylor, listed at 6'5", 180 pounds, 19 years old, averaged 15 points per game, over 5 rebounds, over 3 assists, over 2 steals, over a half a block per game. Only shot 43% from the floor, only shot 34% from deep, 78% from the free throw line, under 2 turnovers per game, and only 2.5 fouls per game. Maxwell, we have him 4th on our board right now. I've seen people rank him as high as 3. Is a player in VJ's ilk, and we'll break down his game, but is VJ projected too high for what we think his role is going to be, or do we genuinely feel as a top 5 player, Dirty Dancer in the chat says he has him 3, do we genuinely feel like VJ is going to be good enough to be a second-ish, maybe 2A, 2B option in the NBA?
Yeah, so I think this goes back a little bit to what we were just talking about, where I don't think there's a lot of like high-end creation kind of guys in this class. What I do think VJ presents is a lot of useful skills, a great work ethic and reputation behind the scenes, and phenomenal athleticism. I also am really bullish on this archetype. And Dirty Dancer brings up Suggs in the chat. Dirty Dancer might as well be the 3rd mic on the show today. Yeah. He's killing.
You got to send Dirty Dancer an invite.
That's kind of what I was gonna get into. Is like with a guy like Jalen Suggs, it's like Suggs is another one of those guys where I think you could argue that in terms of like, I don't know, like if you go back in time and you're like, hey, Jalen Suggs is not going to develop his handle and he's not going to become much better of a shooter than he is coming to the league, you'd be like, oh no. And then in hindsight, it's like the Orlando Magic feel pretty good in hindsight about that pick. Like maybe you'd go in a different order and draft Franz first, but like all in all, it worked out fine.
They knew Franz was going to be there. Like exactly the way they wanted it to.
But yeah, like, I mean, you feel a lot worse about the Davion Mitchell pick before Franz than you do about like, you know what I mean? Like than the Suggs pick. So that's what I see with Edgecombe. It's like, I just see how many playoff teams for like the last 3 years were like, they want Alex Caruso so bad. This is a team that could make a move for Alex Caruso. Like this kind of bulldog, hard charging guard that mucks it up defensively, makes plays all over the court is really valuable. Now, there are some real physical differences there. Edgecombe is really skinny coming into the league relative to a lot of guys who thrive in this role, but he's still bigger than a guy like Keon Ellis. He's coming into the league a lot younger than Keon Ellis. He's coming to the league a lot more productive than Keon Ellis.
You're crapping on my boy for, man.
I'm saying all this because I love Keon Ellis. Keon Ellis had Kings fans wanting him in the starting lineup all year. Like, he is a good, valuable player. And VJ Edgecombe's coming to the league younger, more productive, with a big runway in front of him that Keon never really had, both like physically and in terms of role and in terms of usage. Like, there's going to be more that's, I hate to say, handed to Edgecombe out of the gate because of the esteem that's going to come with where he's drafted, but it's going to be a real thing that's taken into consideration. So I think with the value presented by this sort of high stock, good decision making, even if it's more like a standstill rather than like a downhill game, his handle needs a lot of work, especially with his offhand, like just really poor command over the ball with his offhand. Yes. If you haven't watched Edgecombe before, where it's not even like, oh, he doesn't have moves going that way. It's like sometimes he just straight up loses the ball when he's going that way. But plays so hard defensively, shot the ball really well at lower levels, even if the percentage wasn't great this year. Yep. Really lacking a pull-up game, which again, that's like the, well, you know, is the star player stuff in there? I lean more toward no, because even if you look at Donovan Mitchell is the guy I mentioned when I wrote about him, where statistically they compare very similarly at the same age. But if you look into like the shot chart details, Mitchell is so comfortable getting to pull-ups, both from three in the mid-range. And Edgecombe's body mechanics are sort of all over the place. His legs are drifting in different ways. He's going backwards. He's going forwards. It's an inconsistent rough shot that needs to be ironed out. But I think these guards that just are tough, nasty, overpunch their weight on the glass, take shots when they're open, can act as cutters and lob threats and get out in transition and still know how to play the game in the half court. Like, this is such a valuable archetype that I can't see VJ getting lower than 6 for me.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I have him third. And I think the reason Maxwell
he's 3 for me as well, just for the record.
Okay, great. So I think why you and I are labeling the questions the way that we are now, and for people who are listening for the first time, they're like, how come these guys are like asking all the things to look out for within their game? Mm-hmm. It's because at this point we really want to nail our order. You know, we can be kind of pie in the sky with rankings throughout the year. We have a little over a month left before boards are due. So we're really getting to where we're scrutinizing these guys and asking the tough questions, because you better believe NBA front offices right now are doing the exact same thing, right? They're like, what about this? What do this? Can you sell me on this? You know, and with VJ, I think he brings a lot of playoff value. And I think that's exactly why I like him so much. You're kind of comparing him to guys that can shoot right now. I would say that even if, and Josh Hart has moments where he's on fire from deep, but there's also times where, man, why is Jalen Brunson giving the ball to Josh Hart right now instead of scoring? You know, I think what we've seen as athleticism translates pretty well to the NBA. And Power Stone in the chat mentions that for a guy who's so athletic, he's underwhelming around the rim. Kind of weirdly finishing numbers for athletic guys in college. Yeah. Maxwell, you kind of explain this all the time, right? I'll let you run with that statement, but I think it's really prevalent with VJ.
Yeah, historically, a lot of guys that are really bouncy and fast tend to be bad finishers coming to the ring, into the league on touch finishes specifically. So like if you look at the Thompson twins, like in Overtime Elite, they actually had really poor half court finishing numbers, which you'd never expect. And like, I think for guys that are that type of athletic, and they entered the league around the same age that Edgecombe, they're both right around 20.
Yep.
And it's the same thing. I think a lot of guys, like, it's just a type of, you need to kind of like learn how to decelerate and manage that coordination. Jaylen Brown was another one like that. Like it's more common than you'd think for guys that are super athletic to be poor half court finishers, but still have a ton of dunks on their resume.
Exactly. I mean, he's got 11 dunks in the half court out of 33 dunks registered on Synergy right now. Mm-hmm. So, and you look at the rebounding numbers, they speak well to a player that translates and succeeds, even though he's not the best ball handler. He's still almost a 2 assist to turnover ratio guy, puts pressure on the basket, still learning how to translate his jumper. But I mean, you know how I feel about Baylor systems and the way that they use their guards. I think VJ brings a lot of winning basketball to the table. And even though he might not be, you know, like Chris Middleton level impact to a team, I think is kind of like the high end, the way I feel. Probably not, you know, 1-for-1 translation in terms of play style, but impact to a team. I think VJ could bring like that level of an impact. And it took Chris Middleton a long time to get to the skill level that he got to be whenever he was winning a ring with Milwaukee. So I wouldn't count it out for a guy like VJ either.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting kind of comparison. I think my like pie in the sky thing is like maybe the pull-up stuff does come along and he approximates something like we see out of like can he land somewhere between Donovan Mitchell and Alex Caruso? It's kind of like the question I ask myself a lot. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but that's kind of what I'm intrigued by. Is a possibility.
I like it.
Moving on to Derik Queen.
My guy.
So Derik Queen, 5 on the last consensus board that we did. He is a big man out of Maryland, 16.5 points per game, 9 rebounds per game, 1.9 assists per game to 2.4 turnovers, 1.1 steals, 1.1 blocks. He was 52.6% from the field, 20% from 3, and 76.6% at the free throw line. I feel like I'm kind of like the low man on Queen, like everywhere I go, like not even just like in the collective. Like I feel like in the media space in general, like I feel like I'm low on him and I'm really insecure about it. You're
the guy on the bus that's like on that. You and I are the guys on the bus right now. You're on the stormy side where it's like Derik Queen is not going to be any good, and I'm like the one looking off and enjoying the view. Like Derik Queen's going to be an all-star, you know. And
I want him to be. And I wrote about Derik Queen before the start of the season because I was like, can we just appreciate how cool this guy is? Like I love Derik Queen. Like I want to be so upfront about the fact, like I desperately want this man to succeed because I love how he plays. I think he's hilarious too. Like I think there's like genuine like media star outcomes in a broadcaster in the future.
The workout video with him wearing like the old school like no fear style like spray on t-shirts of like the dog like behind a barbed wire fence with like warrior paint on his face. He literally had that dog on him in the workouts today.
Yeah. So Queen, okay. Here's the other thing that like I'm just perplexed by with Queen. He took on a massive usage rate, which I always love. Great free throw shooter, really high assist numbers for a big man, super high steal rate. My like favorite micro skill in this class is like Derik Queen getting his hands into pockets in the pocket passing game. Like don't throw a pocket pass against Derik Queen. He's going to get his hands on it. Love that element of his game. Dunks way more than you would think for a guy who has like the ground bound, like, is he fast enough? Does his motor run hot enough reputation? Also, Maryland, way better on both ends of the floor against real teams on offense and defense with Queen on the court. For a guy I have massive reservations about defensively. My question for you is, and I ask this, I hate to be the negative Nancy. It's a 2-part question.
Oh, here we go. These are my favorite.
So I'm cheating. But why are we convinced that he is going to be able to score efficiently in the NBA, given it's kind of like a mid-range heavy game right now?
Sure.
And B, why are we convinced that he is going to stay on the floor defensively when games matter, given what we've seen from guys like Sabonis or like some of these guys that like are like bigs but not quite big size and don't have like the bounce to protect the rim?
I think reservations with Queen are warranted, right? I genuinely do. But Maxwell, sometimes, and this is going to not go over well with the calculator rat, contingency out there. And I love I get on my calculator all the time.
People love Queen. Like I will say, like, and then
they do.
Like, and like the data's good. Like I said, like Sam Vecini has mentioned before, he wins everywhere. I just mentioned like they're better on the court with him on both ends. Like the BPM is high. Like that stuff is.
But what I'm about to say, you can't punch into a calculator.
Yeah,
and this is what's gonna. He just moves like an NBA player. Like you just watch him on film, and he is so fluid. For a big man to be able to flip his hips and go out and defend Kasparas Jakucionis out in space and shut him down on the perimeter, you could do so much with that. I think that he can, for his size and for, he's a body transformation guy. Another reason why I feel like you should be all in on this guy, right? He just moves like a pro player. So that's one. Like if you can move the way he moves, especially at his size, I'm in. And then he's instinctual. I was actually blown away that his assist to turnover numbers were what they are, but I feel like he can lock in and make NBA big men level passes easy. I think that is a ball of clay as a decision maker and as a facilitator that you could just run rampant with. And if you look at him, people are going to knock him because of his size, but I mean, Maryland played in a really like strong, rugged conference, and he was in the 85th percentile finishing at the rim. He was in the 74th percentile in shots taken at the rim. So that speaks to the efficiency that we saw in him. He is an animal on the rebounds, right? So if you're talking about, okay, can you do big man things? 9 offensive rebound percentage, defensive rebound percentage of 24.5. Although his block numbers were a little bit low, they were 3.8 block percentage. He had a 2.0 steal percentage as a big man. And that, to me, that speaks to his movement, right? That he can come out. He's got these giant bear paws where he can like literally snatch the ball away from players who think that he's just going to like be a hand down, man down type guy. And he's like pretty agile and nimble in passing lanes too, to be a disruptor there. I think that he ranks in the 81st percentile for mid-range, like something that a lot of people don't talk about with him, because we talk about how he and a guy like Khaman Maluach could project as like a three-point shooter. I feel way more comfortable with projecting Derik Queen, one, because he's like borderline 77% free throw shooter, but then he takes like these tough mid-range shots, Maxwell, and you talk about how that usually translates pretty well to guys growing as a three-point shooter. I just think that with the way the NBA is played now, where we talked about this on the last show, whether you want to call it a two big lineup or simply a power forward and a center, I think Derik Queen can be super interchangeable, because he is so smart and sharp at multiple areas on the floor that if someone wants to be a rim runner, they can do that, and he can make entry passes to these low post guys. If you want to run a 5-out system, you can trust him to do that. Like he moves like a really, really good NBA player. And it is so hard for me to see someone at his size move like that and not think that they're going to be successful with the amount of production that we're seeing from him.
Yeah, I think for me, like what I just keep like, I guess, struggling with is when he's the 5, I just feel like it's going to be a little too easy to vertically space over him with lobs. And then when he's the 4, I felt like his low man stuff was rough this year. Like I thought he was just like really slow to get into position around the rim. He like didn't like show that much effort doing that, and like that has to change. And maybe it does, and it's fine. And like I get that, like it's really, again, like it's really rare to see a guy his size like with a genuine bag, like an honest to God bag, like shape defender is like a lot of big guys just like cannot compete with the handle face up stuff that he brings. It's really rare. I just don't know like how much utility that brings. Is like, I guess what it comes back to. It's like, this is great. I don't know how much this matters if you're not like a superstar. And I'm not convinced that he is. And then if he's not, I think like the defensive stuff becomes a lot more worrying.
To me, it's like, remember when Alperen Şengün came out and there was boards were all over the place with Alperen, because for a lot of the same reasons, right? He's big, but is he big enough to be a 5 full-time? If he's going to be a 5 full-time, can he defend? It took Alperen to be, I would say, maybe modest on the defensive end, playable, passable, to where he can be on a Houston Rockets type team and still be like an integral cog with the way that offense is ran. Dirty Dancer in the chat brings up Zebo. Shout out to the Zach Randolph fans out there. I think there are some similarities there. I just think that he's too skilled to like, is this the ideal archetype for a 5 in the NBA? Probably not. But I still think that he could be a winning player with the amount of areas that he influences with his game on both sides of the floor.
Yeah, I want to pull up the Şengün numbers because I feel like that's like a comp that I see a lot. And Şengün, like he was playing in the Turkish league, which at the time was like a good pro league. It was like a little down because of COVID that year. But he still had the high steal rate like Queen did, but he had nearly a 6 block rate. He was like unstoppable on the offensive glass. And if I'm not mistaken, he dunked a ton that year. Like I think Şengün is a better athlete than Queen. Yeah, he had 60 dunks in like 34 games that year. So like I think Şengün is just straight up a better mover and athlete than Queen was. But yeah, I still like Queen. And I think those are fair things to point out that like there are guys that we've seen in winning roles that I guess can approximate this.
He might be the biggest risk reward bet within the top 10, I would say, because if it hits at a high end outcome, it's going to be ridiculously good. If it hits at a low end outcome, then you probably wasted a first round pick.
Yep.
But I don't see him failing. I see him being okay at worst.
Cool. I think that's fair. Let's move on to the next one. Kasparas Jakucionis from Illinois. 15 points per game for the 6'6", 18-year-old guard. He also had 9.5 rebounds per game, 4.7 assists, 3.7 turnovers, 0.9 steals, 0.3 blocks. He was 44% from the field, 31.8% from three to 84.5% at the free throw line. Stephen, this question is yours. You've been a Kasparas doubter all year.
And it looks like, well, first off, I got a 2-part question for you. I didn't plan for this.
Yeah, you're good.
How does it feel to finally be on my side with Kasparas?
We talked about this the other day. Yeah.
And then B, my actual question. Is Kasparas good enough at other things beside passing in the NBA to warrant being a potential top 6 pick in this draft?
Yeah, I do not have him in my top 6 at this point. I will be very clear.
A lot of people do, man. And it makes me, I feel how you felt the majority of the year. I'm vindicated with you. There are still a lot of people that love Kasparas. I feel like he is my Derik Queen, like your Derik Queen. Kasparas is my version of that, where I'm just like, I don't understand how people were saying top 3, top 5, top 7. Like I cannot get there.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing was just like, what shooter is he? Because he was like scorching from 3 earlier in the year, and he had the great free throw percentage to go along with it. So we were at the point of the year where he's like 40, 45, 40, 85. It's like, yeah, he's going to shoot and this is going to be fine. And like, even if it's not, like he can play this like backup point guard role, blah, blah, blah. And now it's like, okay, well, if he's the 32% 3-point shooter, then maybe not. Like, then maybe there are some real concerns. I think what you are going to hope for out of Kasparas is that the fact that he is like not a great athlete is going to be diminished. It's going to be, I guess, accentuated a little bit, I should say, when he's off the ball a little bit more. And he was a little bit better of a shooter as a catch and shoot guy. Not great for a guard. But I think the dynamism that he showed as a shooter, taking like long, deep threes, tough pull-ups, real level of comfort in the mid-range, that maybe he's a guy that can shoot off the catch a little bit and really attack second side and have those like counter moves that like, okay, I didn't draw a hard closeout, but I can take one dribble, hit him with this move, and then all of a sudden I'm at the rim. Where Kasparas did really well is in terms of like rim pressure and rim finishing, even though he's like below the rim. He's a really tough, really physical guy. He draws a lot of fouls. He's great at the free throw line. He gets it on the defensive glass. I think there are outcomes for him that are like a little bit more boring, is like what I was texting you about the other day. Like, is he just like flashy passing Trey Mann is like, I think the name that I threw out, where it's like, it's fine. Like you can play this guy, but it's not like the coolest thing in the world. Like it's not, the greatest outcome on earth. But yeah, I think ultimately like the combo of like, this is a guy who has really high level moments as a passer, can really do some stuff. And like, he's got to cut down on the turnovers and got to be more of a threat. Like, could he be like, I guess, pace oriented Kobe White? Is that like an outcome for him? Where it's like the taller guard who doesn't have the long wingspan, but like has enough kind of scoring sauce. How good of a shooter was Kobe White in college, though?
I would like to know Spencer Dinwiddie too.
Spencer Dinwiddie's another good one. Like, I think he could be like that type of player where it's like not the most valuable thing in the world, but like, if you think they gave it a high enough level and you're like not a total shrimp, you can figure it out. And I think that's kind of where I'm seeing Kasparas more personally at this stage.
Yeah. Kasparas is one of the guys where it kind of forced my hand at my stupid guy take, where I was like, are we overvaluing intelligence like to a certain degree? in basketball players, where obviously I want smart basketball players. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying the dumber a player is, the better that they are. Right. But if the sell for him is the frame and his processing, like that's a start. Like, I'm not going to lie.
Turns it over a lot too. So it's like, are we talking about like intelligence, or are we talking about a guy who occasionally sees some things really well and also like bites off way more than he can chew other times?
Bingo. Is he playing too fast? Like, is he outrunning his gigabytes or whatever? He does score at the rim, 78th percentile. He's in the 40th percentile at the rim, which for freshmen at Illinois, like, I think that 40th percentile is actually pretty good. Like, you want to see a number in that range. I don't know what position he is. I don't know what position he defends. Like, that's really where it scares me. Maxwell, you and I talk about physicality. Is he tough on offense? Yeah. Like, he's got like that Goran Dragic type game where he can snake his way into the paint. He can kind of flex around a defender, kind of ferret his way around a body and finish above the rim. He finished, but not above the rim. I mean, he only had one dunk on the year, and it wasn't in the half court. But he gets to the lane, he draws contact, and he can finish with layups, right? He is also severely like dominant to his left side too, driving the basket. And that like really shows up on the film as well. Rebounds well enough. So I guess if I could put a part C to this question is what position he plays, because I think you want him to be a primary guy, but I don't trust him defensively. I don't trust the shot. I trust the passing, but what we see in the playoffs right now, like if you can't shoot as a playmaker, defenses can really do a number on you. Like I have him, I think, at like 16, 17 on my board. And I know that's not popular.
Yeah, I think I've got him in a similar place. I like some of the stuff defensively. Like, I think the athletic limitations are very real, especially in terms of like steal rate. Like, he's just not a guy who's able to jump a passing lane. Like, there are just certain things that are sort of off the table for him.
I want to know his wingspan.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be good. But there's other stuff too where I think he's almost more intelligent on that end of the ball at times. Like, his screen navigation, I thought was pretty good. Like, I feel like he knows
very conservative
where to be. Yeah, like how to maneuver around those sort of things, how to get to the right spots. Like, I thought some of that stuff was good. So I think there's a real place for him, and I think the other thing you mentioned was like the defensive rebounding. I think that's going to be how he succeeds early. Is going to be by like grab and go, win in early offense, and like don't make it a half court game as much as possible. Like, if he can come in and just play hard as a second unit guy, I think that'll allow him to like do some positive stuff on the court. Like, a different type of player, but sort of like the same way like Modest Buzelis is like still some real warts as a half court player. But just sort of the energy and intensity and like, let's go helped him a lot in year one.
Who was this question has potential to make both of us look like we don't know ball, but I'll be vulnerable. Who was the Utah Jazz guard that was like a bigger guy from Australia that like played a little bit, flamed out, and came back, played for the Mavericks? Dante Exum. That now Exum was a freak athlete, right? But I think that there's a little bit of Dante Exum in his game.
Yeah, where it's like, if the shot isn't there, like how much does this matter? Is there a question? Let's do our last break, and then we're gonna go through guys 7 through 10. So stick with us. All right, so we are up to number 7 on the board, who was Tre Johnson.
Yeah,
it's a very hot name at the moment. Like, Tre Johnson at 3 is like the new thing. It feels like. Big year at Texas as a freshman. He's 6'6", reported wingspan in the 6'10" range, 19.9 points per game, 3.1 rebounds, 2.7 assists, 0.9 steals to 0.3 blocks. He was 42.7% from the field, 39.7% from three, 87.1% from the free throw line. With Tre Johnson, I feel a really great degree of safety, because boy, oh boy, does he shoot the basketball well.
Yes.
The 3 that you can want, he can do it. He got his assist rate up later in the year. A low turnover guy, which I love to see from a freshman, especially shooters. Like, if you look at a lot of the guys that really shoot the ball, in the NBA. A lot of them are really low turnover guys in college. Was sort of like a iffy steal and block rate guy, which I wrote about in my column this past week. Like he checks out of the boxes for those type of guys though, where he's a good free throw shooter, good decision maker, knocks down shots, etc. My thing with Tre Johnson, and the reason I've had him more in the like 7 through 10 range, I suppose, all year. Why are we convinced, or like what is the idea is like how much defensive value he can provide? And then I guess my offensive question is like, why are we ignoring the fact that he's long been a historically bad rim finisher who doesn't pressure the rim? Which, like, that's harsh. That guy, I'll just say, like, that's not even a real question. That's just personally like why I am lower on Tre Johnson. I get that the body is better. He's never gotten to the rim at any level. He's always finished really poorly. I am not particularly seeing the vision with the higher end offensive outcomes. I think he's an excellent shooter. I think he could be like a top 3 option potentially based on how nuclear of a shooter he is. And if he kind of keeps developing that passing game, like I think that's all on the table. I guess my thing is just like the two-way value proposition. Where do you sit with him defensively as a player? And like, do you think he's a, plus defender? Do you think he's an average defender? Or do you think he's like a below average defender, but it's fine? Or do you think he's terrible? Like, I guess like what's your defensive evaluation of him? Because all everyone's talking about is sort of the offense, the shot making, the playmaking. And like, I'm into all of that except the finishing. But I guess like, where do you see him defensively? And then how does that affect where you?
Yeah, he's got like a Tyreek Hill offense almost, where it's like, he's not the best route runner in the world. He's fast. He's fun. A lot of like younger people are going to like him. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing with Tre Johnson, where he's a flamethrower from outside. Everybody wants that. But I think defensively, Norn Rad in the chat, I'm exactly with where you are. That's slightly below average defender, but it's fine. That's where I'm living, because I think that he's got the potential to just be a burner on the offensive end. And as long as he's not a traffic cone all the time, if he can be in a scheme where you can hide him a la Tyler Hero in Miami, Bradley Beal in Washington.
Didn't work out so well for Tyler Hero in the playoffs, though, which is like why I go back to that. And like, yeah.
But, and I get that, like he is, and Norman Powell, tempo in the chat, Norman Powell. I think that's a good one, like current Norman Powell, not or not Toronto wanting to
prime Norman Powell. Norman Powell, what a fun year.
Yeah, he could jump over, he could pat his head going down the court. But I think Tre Johnson, he's athletic, but in a different way. He's not like a nuclear athlete, but he's got some zoom to him, some stride. I like his movement. I like he processes defenses well as a scorer, like if that makes sense. Like he's not, he can manipulate defenses with body movement, and he can shift his weight like really well. He can shift his momentum really well, get himself open, and that's kind of sexy. I just think there are going to be players in the NBA where the offense is going to be so good that you're going to have to kind of live with whatever the defense is. And as long as he can get to respectable levels, to like a Devin Booker, to where he's not like getting killed, he's got a good frame to get stronger. Yeah. And I think it's always the thing. And we're going to talk about this with another guy. Like fit is important. I think culture is important, especially with a guy like Tre Johnson. I think culture is going to be a big deal. And if you can tone his shot diet, if you can lean into the glimpses of playmaking, and you can teach him how to make rotations, get up in somebody, be a pest. If he blows by, hopefully you have a Bam Adebayo or a JaVale McGee behind you, or someone along those lines, right? Some people get a pass on defense, man. Yeah. And I think that that's ultimately like where I am with like a Tre Johnson type, because the offense can be so nuclear.
Yeah.
He's got the potential to yield like top 3. I don't would
value.
Would you be surprised if 5-6 years down the road, it turns out that like Tre Johnson's third best player in this class.
I could see it. I think that's totally possible. I think the defense is like fine. Like I think the slightly below average, but it's fine is like kind of where I sit because I think you see some of the physical limitations and like some motor limitations too, to be blunt, like in terms of the defensive playmaking. Like he's not aggressive at all defensively. But I think the point of attack stuff is good. Like I don't know if I'd say good. It's up to snuff. Like he is not going to be, he's not going to be like an easy hunting target. Like he's not going to get blown by every time. He's not going to get plowed through every time. And off the ball, even if he doesn't, fly above the rim to turn a guy away, he's at least in position around the basket and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like he will make the correct rotation. Like that stuff I think is okay. I think for me, it's just like, I don't see the super high end offensive stuff because of the lack of rim pressure. And I think he also stops the ball a lot.
He does
a lot. Like he has
Texas was a mess though, dude.
I have no idea what to make of that.
Texas was a mess. Like you almost have to throw that season out for a lot of guys, man. In my opinion.
Yeah, it's a trickier evaluation than I think people are making it out to be. Because I feel like a lot of people are he should be number 3 now. And it's like, there's still a lot of like tendencies where I'm like, I just don't know how this scales into a role. But I think, again, you just zoom out and it's like, oh yeah, nuclear shooter who doesn't turn the ball over and like has a good frame. Probably going to be pretty good. Probably going to be better than Gary Trent. Like,
that I've loved him.
Yeah.
You know that I've loved him all year. Like, and I've said for the majority of the season, this dude could yield top 3 return. The reason I have him 6 are because of the stark limitations that he has, like at the finishing, and he could just be a sieve defensively. Like those are real outcomes to where how much you want to weigh that to where I put a VJ Edgecombe and a Derik Queen above him, but I do have him above other players, such as our next guy, that a lot of people are really high on, to include yourself. So
All right. Up next, it is the Kon man, Kon Knueppel, from Duke, 6'7", 217. We'll see about the 6'7", about a week and a half.
Yeah.
14.4 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, 2.7 assists to 1.4 turnovers, 1.0 steals, 0.2 blocks, 47.9% from the field, 40.6% from 3, and 91.4% at the free throw line. So this is another sharpshooter guy with some defensive limitations. I think I worry a bit more about the hunting target stuff with Kon than I do with Tre, but I think I worry less about the scaling into an offensive role thing. But yeah, you were the question asker for Kon. What is your question that you've got here?
Yeah, and this might be lazy question asking. And I think the questions are whatever. Like we just want to talk about these guys, but my question, and I know that you recently moved him up your big board.
Yep.
To how high?
5.
You want to drop that?
Yeah,
5.
I got him at 5.
I really wanted to jump on that bandwagon, but I see it. Like I genuinely do. So if you want him at 5, Maxwell, this is why I'm asking you this question. How confident are you that Kon is someone that you can build around? Obviously not as a 1.
Yeah.
But if you have him top 5, are you seeing second, third option outcomes with Kon?
Yeah, probably closer to 3rd.
Sure.
And I do think there's like a gnarly downside, like I mentioned. I would say where I differ than most like Kon fans is I'm like, the Kon men is like, I really worry about the defense. Like I see a lot of people be like, yeah, he's actually like a pretty decent college defender. And like, I think in some senses that's like technically true, where I feel like he like does a good job of like staying square. He doesn't like reach and get beat off the dribble. Like there are like technical elements that I like. I just worry about how this guy moves. Like his closeout speed is rough. His balance, if someone drives at his closeout, is rough. Like there's a lot of real concerns. And like Dirty Dancer bring up like the Bane comps. Like that's when you see a lot, right? Desmond Bane was a guy, different builds, but like Bane had like a stubby wingspan and like this and that, and people kind of like undersold the offense because of it, but the offense ended up being really valuable, and Bane was really strong. Obviously, I don't think Kon's going to be that kind of strong, but like, yeah, like is there a way where he can maybe find a way to leverage that strength and the technique and then turn that into some sort of like okay defensive value? Maybe. But outlier, great free throw shooter. Guys just generally don't shoot free throws that well. At that age, really nailed his threes, nailed them in a variety of ways. I think the biggest thing that made me buy Kon is that we talk all the time about how with a lot of these shooters, look, they're not going to pressure the rim. And when they get to the rim, they're going to finish pretty poorly. And like, you have to live with it. And that's why I still like Tre, even though I worry immensely about that and how it affects his star upside. Guys like Jalen Wells, like terrible finisher in college. Gary Trent, terrible finisher in college. Like a lot of these shootery wings just can't get to the rim and finish. And that's fine because their primary job is to just stand there and shoot a three when something breaks down defensively. Kon's ability to sort of like play off of 2 feet and just like use weird craft and dribble moves and pump fakes to sort of like find ways to get big men off their feet and get clean looks to the rim. I'm intrigued by it. I don't know that I'm like fully sold, but on paper, he did a great job of finishing in the half court and getting to the rim in the half court for a guy who I thought would be much more of a pull-up 2-point oriented player when chased off the line. And is it going to be as easy to get bigs off their feet in the NBA with the pump fake? Probably not. But if he can do that, am I, convinced maybe a little bit that he can find some other sort of solution to beat big men at the rim? Yeah, I kind of am. Like, I think he might be able to figure something else out. So I really think that his offensive skill set is extremely valuable. Is there a world where he ends up being more Sam Hauser than Desmond Bane? Like totally. Like
Duncan Robinson.
And even Hauser, like Hauser's a big dude. Like I think Hauser had almost like a 6'10" wingspan, close to that. Like Kon's probably not going to be that big. And I don't even know that he covers ground as well as Hauser did at a similar point. So like, that's like where I get tripped up is like, if Kon doesn't hit that high end proposition, like we talked like Liam McNeely a couple weeks ago, it's like, that could be a pick that you drive it off the lot and the value just immediately kind of falls down. Like, I think that's really possible with taking Kon high. But I do think the offense and the processing is just so high. And like, he keeps finding ways to beat my criticisms of him that I'm sort of wrong about. I'm tired of being wrong on this side of the equation with Kon, and I'm going to move over the other one and see how that works out for me.
And I think that the thing with Kon is I've heard so many people say that like all of a sudden I get it with Kon, like, okay, it's all making sense now. I genuinely feel that Kon was one of the best like in-season improvement guys. Because if you go back and look at what he was doing earlier in the season compared to like how he was ending it with Duke, you're almost looking at 2 different dudes. And I think that, in-season improvements are real. And I think that you should value those in guys. I have Kon in like the 7, 8, 9 range. I don't feel great about it. I kind of want to bump him up. But like you, I do worry about the defense. I do worry about the athleticism. And I'm going to do the thing that draft shows aren't supposed to do and compare him to other slow-footed white dudes. Like I'm especially like, could he be JJ Redick? Who was a top 10 player,
and like a way better passer than JJ was. Like people forget, like JJ is not a good playmaker at all coming in.
Exactly. So I think that he's going to be bigger too. Like Sam Merrill, like, is that a low end outcome for
Sam Merrill's starting a playoff game as we record this podcast?
Yeah, he's hit some really big shots for Cleveland, like right as we were getting onto the show. So those are. Again, you're not supposed to do white to white for whatever reason. You're not supposed to do Duke to Duke for whatever reason. Like, you just can't do that. Them's the rules. But I've just been so impressed with Kon's in-season improvement. Like, the shooting is real. 2.0 assist to turnover ratio, respectable free throw rate, respectable rebounding numbers. You talked about him getting into the rim and finishing at a good clip. He moves well without the ball. I think Duke moved away from him often throughout the year when they really should have, especially in March Madness, Coach Shire. But I kind of want to put him top 5. I have my reservations, but he's just so smart, dude. But it's how tall is he going to be? What's his wingspan going to be? We already kind of worry about the defense. Like, he plays hard. He's always rosy cheeked the whole game. Like I like him a lot. I worry that he's not going to be like that second or third option. Dirty Dancer in the chat said like great 4th option connector. Yeah, somewhere like 4th, 5th starter. But I think that he's got the upside to be a little bit better.
Yeah. I think he's really interesting. Next on the docket, we've got one of his teammates. It's Khaman Maluach from Duke, 7'2" big man, 250 pounds. A guy who's, I believe, like reported to have like a 7'9" wingspan. So like a guy who, by all accounts, should measure really well. 8.6 rebounds per game, 6.6 rebounds, averaged 0.5 assists to 0.8 turnovers per game, 1.3 blocks per game, 0.2 steals. He was 71.2% from the field, 25% from three, and 76.6% the free throw line. Sort of a really interesting case of, wow, this guy's really big. Wow, this guy's got some touch. I wanted to do a cheap plug for my article this past week that I wrote on red flags and the guys who beat them. And one of the red flags I talked
fantastic
about
piece, by the way.
Thank you. Was guys who came to the league with subpar assist rates and subpar assist to turnover ratios. And there's been like 13 of them or 14 of them since 2017. So this is like a more common thing than you'd like to see or than you might expect to see. Among those players, some of the most common traits were a good usage rate, which Maluach didn't have. He had a really low usage rate. But good true shooting, offensive rebound, effective field goal percentages, high field goal percentages in the half court, big number of dunks. That sounds a lot like Khaman Maluach.
Almost all of them.
Yes, I'm really buying the floor case here. I hate to be the I just watched a video of this guy working out. I'm getting too excited guy, but he's looking lean.
It's okay to get excited about hype videos too. It's fun.
It's fun. I'm not like, changing my, projection entirely because of it. Given his touch, the fact that he checks so many of the requisite boxes for a guy who's coming in with perhaps these ball skill limitations, and the fact that he is so late to basketball, are we sure that he's closer to a Daniel Gafford on that low assist list than he is to a Jared Allen?
No, I'm not sure about anything with Khaman Maluach.
I agree.
I'm not sure about him. I think he's going to be okay. And
Jakob
I think
Pertl's a great comp in the chat.
Yeah.
Answer too.
That's a really good one. Jakob Pertl, Toronto legend. I know that if I'm low on a player, it's a Khaman Maluach. And I knew that coming into this year, and I really wanted to be in on him because he's like the one guy of this archetype in this class that you were supposed to be high on. Like you have to like Khaman Maluach because he's huge, and that's where the conversation starts. He's just ginormous. Like, and I get that. I understand that he has the potential to be a good defender. He had a 6.8 block percentage, which is not typically where you want to see from an elite rim protector. And I think that's where the conversation for the skeptics start. He is a good rebounder. Take the March Madness thing out. Everyone has like an oddity of a performance every once in a while. That's okay. He's a good offensive rebounder. He's a solid but not great defensive rebounder, which I know that you've pointed out is becoming a thing in the league with guys like an Yves Missy, who had a really good rookie year in New Orleans. He does the big man things well enough to where you could be comfortable with him if you like him. But I've seen him like ball too low. I understand that that's coachable. Mm-hmm. Passing is okay at times. Other times it's not. I could really give two craps if he grows into a 3-point shooter, Maxwell. Like I could care less if he is. It's great. I want to see him dominate. He has moments where his movement looks incredible in open space, and then he has moments where he is asking, which way did he go, George? He's perplexing, man. I have him like in the 10 to 12 range, and I'm very well aware that Khaman Maluach is going to be like, he's either going to be my greatest vindication or he's going to be my greatest lesson learned. Like if he breaks through and does it, say I give up, I'm going to buy into the measurements. I'm going to buy into some of the metrics that say you should believe this guy, regardless of what film says, because to me, the film shows that he's not as good as the rankings that I've seen throughout the year have been.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to look at it. I'm intrigued personally. I think a lot of it just comes back to the idea of safety and just like he's so big. He clearly tries hard. Like I just think he's that kind of guy where like it's safe even in the unsexy elements, and like maybe something sexy happens. Like maybe the shot is real, or like maybe the defensive technique gets a little bit more consistent as he gets experience. And like conversely, like we see it all the time where like sometimes those late bloomers can be like an unfaithful mistress, where it's like this idea of like, well, he doesn't have experience, and like they just end up sort of always being behind the curve in certain aspects. Like the field stuff just doesn't always catch up. The game's always just like a little bit too fast sometimes, or like, you know, the timing never quite is right. We've seen it go both ways. So it's interesting.
Hashim Thabit was huge. Jameis Wiseman was huge. DeAndre Ayton, huge.
Like guy that I loved, like Leonard Miller, where it was like, look, I know this looks funky, but like it's really productive and whatever. And like I know he's on a great team, but like he still just hasn't really found a spot, and his G League production wasn't great this last year. Like it's sometimes it just doesn't meld as well as you think it would. I think Maluach is safer than Miller because he's 7'2", 250 instead of like 6'10", 200 or whatever Miller was. He was a scrawny dude for his position.
He's traditional,
but yeah, he's a little bit more traditional and like easy to understand. Like someone who barely watches basketball could see Khaman Maluach and know where to put him on a basketball court. So
exactly,
he's got that going for him. Last one on the docket: Collin Murray-Boyles, South Carolina. Forward, big. Depends who you ask. 6'7", rumored to have a 7-foot plus wingspan, 245 pounds. He averaged 16.8 points per game, 8.3 rebounds, 2.4 assists to 2.4 turnovers, 1.5 steals, and 1.3 blocks per game. He was 58.6% from the field, 26.5% from three, and 70.7% at the free throw line. Collin Murray-Boyles, what is your question on him?
Man, I just love CMB so much. I feel like I've been riding this wagon all season long. My question to you is, how much of his trajectory depends on the team that he goes to's creativity?
Oh, I love that question. I would say quite a bit, because I think a team that's going to want that's a great question, because I think if you put him in a situation, like if he was on Houston, like I would have no concern about him at all, even like with their other non-shooters, just because it's like,
why?
They will figure out how to use a guy who struggles to shoot but still has ball skills, and they will appreciate the fact that he is going to be able to guard just about everybody on the other side of the ball and compete with a high level of intensity. I trust him in that sort of a setting. If you put him, was there like, I'm trying to think of like who like the disaster teams in the league this year were. If you put him in a situation like I'm actually going to use Charlotte as the example.
Okay.
If you put him in Charlotte, where the system is like LaMelo Ball brings the ball up the court and kind of does whatever when he's healthy.
Stand in a corner, CMB.
I don't know what you do with him, because like he's not a traditional lob target. So even in the games where Mark Williams can't play because he's injured, a lot of this depends on guys that are injured for Charlotte. But like, he's not going to be a lob guy, and he's not going to space the way that like Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, and Grant Williams do, where they're just going to like be content to take a lot of threes. And like, he doesn't quite have the bag to play like the Cody Martin role. So like on a team like that, it's just like, well, what are you going to do here? Like San Antonio, I think would be a great fit for him, because I think it just becomes obvious that he can play the 4 next to Victor. But I think how much he can take on offensively is going to depend on that quite a bit. Because if he plays with a team that lets him sort of do Julius Randle-ish stuff early and like kind of face up and see what he can do and play through some of those kinks, I think it'll really put him in a position where his offensive ceiling could be quite a bit higher. But if he's a guy where the role is just like set screens, roll, be in the dunker spot while we play a stretch big, and then go play defense, it probably limits him, and it probably limits the amount of time he spends on the court, because a lot of coaches might just say, well, just give me a 7-footer out there instead that's going to do those things, and not fully appreciate the other eccentricities of his game and other value adds that he's bringing. So I would say quite a bit. I think he's going to be, I know a lot of people don't really buy the idea of fit. I do think schematically it matters a lot in terms of initial opportunity and what a player's second contract ends up looking like. I think the other thing in his favor is that I can imagine him playing on a lot of teams that are picking high. Like even if he falls, like, God, I would love to have him in Chicago. Like, we haven't had a big bodied, forward that can play defense in a while, it feels like. And
EJ Liddell, right?
Yeah. Someday it's going to work out. I still have my EJ stock, but like
I do
with Vooch or Jalen Smith, like if those are the bigs again next year, you can play CMB with those dudes. And like, you've got Kobe White shooting 1 million threes. Like, there's lineups where that can work. So I think it depends quite a bit, but I
don't want him in Orlando.
No, but I would say fit wise, it feels like this is a decent year for him in terms of like teams picking at the top of the draft that either have like enough shooting in their lineup or would be willing to play this type of player, that I actually think it's a great year for him to be in the draft.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of people don't look at him in the age range that he is. Like, he's actually younger than Derik Queen, even though he's a sophomore and Queen's a freshman. So that, reclassification, I think, really helped him out. But you're talking about a guy who rebounds really well, almost 9% or offensive rebound percentage, 23.8 defensive rebound percentage, 15 half-court dunks, Maxwell, on a South Carolina team that was not like the poster school for ball movement and creativity. So even at a school where it's just like, hold up, let him cook, he was still able to impose his will in the most, if not the most athletic conferences in college basketball. He was in the 85th percentile at the rim, 88th percentile in shots at the rim. He was also 82nd percentile on cuts, 54th percentile as the roll man. Only on 17 possessions, though, Maxwell, as the pick and roll ball handler, he was in the 98th percentile. And then he showed improved playmaking, which I really appreciated, to kind of round out his kind of funkiness with his frame and play style. The fact that you can trust him to make good decisions, again, on like a South Carolina just historically has not been like the most premier offensively gifted team. Even still, his 1-to-1 assist turnover ratio. I know a lot of people are going to knock he can't shoot, but if we're giving Khaman Maluach grace as a 3-point shooter, I mean, Collin Murray-Boyles came in and put up more shots than he did last year and connected on over 25%. And he's a decent enough free throw shooter to where you can kind of imagine it. I just think that fit with him in particular, and I know D. Joda in the chat said fit's so important. It's not about schemes, but culture, opportunity, playing time, etc. I think with CMB, he could be one of these guys to where fit ultimately is going to result in his high-end outcome, because it's going to take a team that's going to want to look at all the positives that he brings to the table and utilize them, instead of putting him in sets where it's CMB go stand in a corner and go guard like one position. You know what I mean? Like, I could see fit for him in particular being kind of the make or break almost. Yeah.
And with that, we are going to put a bow on this episode of Draft Sickos. Make sure you are subscribed to us wherever you're listening. No Ceilings on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, feed, Spotify. Same thing everywhere at No Ceilings NBA on social media. You can find me at Boundboards and Stephen at Stephen G Hoops. Stephen, any parting words for the audience this week?
I'm upset that our top 10 big board discussion did not include Neat Clifford, who I have above Khaman Maluach and CMB, but I'm okay overall. I'm fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. So,
All right. Sounds good. Well, that'll do it for this week. We appreciate you all tuning in. We will see you next week. Stick with us.
Much love, y'all.